Got a question here asking how much notice does a landlord have to give to not renew a lease because the landlord is going to sell the property? Hi, my name is Rob Wells. I'm the Landlord Warrior on TikTok and YouTube. Please feel free to like, share, subscribe to our videos. Now, this is a really tricky question, okay? Because in California, we have the State Tenant Protection Act of 2019. We have also local municipalities that have possible eviction control ordinances, okay? A lot of ordinances in the Tenants Protection Act do not allow an owner to terminate a lease because it expires. That's not just cause under the Tenants Protection Act, nor is it in many circumstances. So the first thing I'm always going to ask is, where's the property at? Okay, because that's going to dictate possibly what rules apply. If it's State Tenant Protection Act applies, or if a local ordinance is going to apply. Okay, generally speaking, the local ordinance, if it was enacted before the Tenants Protection Act, or it was enacted after the Tenants Protection Act was passed in 2019, but the ordinance is stronger than the rights and just cause provisions of the Tenants Protection Act, the local ordinance is going to prevail. That's the first step. The second step is, if we're talking about a tenancy subject to the Tenants Protection Act, or that's a possible scenario, if the tenants have lived there less than a year and your lease is for 364 days or less, you possibly can insist on the tenants leaving at the end of the lease term. And on a lease term type deal, when it expires, generally no notice is needed, okay? With an exception, unless your lease dictates that notice needs to be provided of your non-renewal, okay? Your mileage is going to vary on that as well, too, because some landlords have leases that have provisions. Hey, you have, before, 30, the tenancy expires in 30 days, you have, either party has to give notice, or it automatically renews. That might change the result. But if you have a lease, you don't have any crazy provisions in your lease saying you have to give notice or otherwise whatnot. Generally speaking, a lease does not require any notice. Expiration of the lease, telling a tenant, hey, we're not renewing the lease, that type of deal, you're going to have to move out at the lease end date. Technically, no notice is needed, okay? Now, it's a good idea to have courtesy notice and at least put your tenant on notice that, hey, you're not renewing the lease. And generally speaking, I try to tell my landlords I would probably give as much notice of that as possible, so there is no surprises or whatnot, okay? Because, yes, although the lease itself is the notice, and it says, hey, it ends on, let's say, December 31st, for example, the reality of it is, if you don't tell your tenant that you're not renewing it, they're going to stay. Right? They think probably, hey, hey, we're going to go status quo. Then you put yourself in a position where you're going to probably have to do an unlawful detainer if you're going to insist on the tenant leaving, okay? Unlawful detainers or evictions cost money. They take a bunch of time. Average one, at least what we deal with, is probably like 6 to 13 weeks. And that's like on the very short end. If you go to a place that is impacted with evictions, it's going to take long, okay? That means time, money, dealing with a guy like me, going through the process and being frustrated, okay? I probably would insist upon, just letting your tenants know ahead of time, if that's what your plan is, okay? Assuming you don't have to follow just cause, or you know for certain that you're not subject to just cause under the state's Tenants Protection Act or a local ordinance, okay? Or required to give some type of notice pursuant to your lease. Your mileage is going to vary. It's a highly factual type of analysis, and care should be taken before you say, hey, we're not renewing your lease, and then resting your hat on that. You want to do all that legwork and research up front before you even make the decision, because I've had a lot of landlords say they have to backtrack because they're subject to cause. They can't terminate the tenancy legally, and they get it in hot water. So just cautionary tale, okay? Landlords, if you're contemplating not renewing your lease and you want your tenant to vacate and you don't know if what rules apply or whatnot, you need some help navigating that stuff, you're in the Northern California area, feel free to reach out. We might be able to help out. Put your comments, questions down below. And until next time, talk to you then. See ya.